Hi everyone, today I want to share with you the process for this memory keeping album, and I will show you one page out of this album. As I'm doing the voiceover right now, the album is actually completely finished, and boy oh boy was I happy because it was quite challenging at one point. I felt like I was wrestling with the album because obviously I filled it up to the brim with all these extra papers and doilies and everything, so it was a little bit challenging because the format of it is quite a narrow page. But anyways, I'm very happy I have chosen it to document this weekend that we had to celebrate my husband's birthday in January. So what you will see here is that I chose a patterned scrapbooking paper on the left, and every single picture will have, so that will be the layout for the entire album. On every left page there will be a scrapbooking paper, and then there will be pictures, photos on each side, and then in this particular case I'm trying to mount this first picture. So it's a picture of my son before we went to have lunch. There was a peacock walking about, and I thought that would be a lovely thing to document. And seeing peacock in real life other than zoo is always very, very unusual. So yes, it was a beautiful moment, and there I am trying to make it justice by picking the right doily colors. So as you can see, the pattern paper has a lot of things going on, so it's quite busy, but at least it's monochrome, so it's in one kind of color family. And that's why I'm choosing a white doily, which is came already cut and ready. Because it's white, it helps me to knock back the color behind it, and so the picture would then stand out a little bit more than just sticking it straight to the patterned paper. As you saw, there was also a minty doily, which I used a die cut with my Platinum 6 by Spellbinder cutting machine, and cut it out myself. So here I am picking the suitable paper to mount the picture, which is the same layout that I've done for every single picture, so they're hand mounted. So I'm trying to pick the paper that will be plain more or less because of all the colors that are already going on, and this paper kind of looked right to me because it had a little bit of that notepad look to it, but it was off cream, and so it made sense. I find that adding a little bit of a mount behind the picture makes the picture look a bit more better, or the layout actually, rather than just having a white frame that you print already with the picture. So they actually all had white frames, and I ended up cutting them off, and that gives a little bit more dimension and a little bit more interest. The next thing that I will do is grab this Tim Holtz paper distresser, and as you can see, you just use the blade inside that little tool to run against the edges of the paper, and that creates a distressed look, which I think looks absolutely beautiful and so much better than just a cut piece of paper. It makes it look more finished, and again, play on texture and just that little extra step to make it look interesting and more finished. So then I think at this point it did run out, the adhesive tape, and so that's how you replace it. You just buy, I think they sell them like packs of 3. So this Tombow adhesive is great for those of us that are quite undecisive when it comes to, there you go, I'm showing you that it didn't rip the picture, the photograph didn't damage it. So if you're quite undecisive when it comes to making layouts, or particularly for memory keeping or scrapbooking, then you can use it. You can see here I went with the ATG, and that is permanent. If you stick that and try to remove it, you're very likely to rip the paper with it. So what I do is I use that Tombow as you can see how easy that came off as well. So that was Tombow, and once I'm decided, I'm then going over the top with the ATG and sticking it then in the right place. So that is a perfect way to keep things neat and unbroken. Here I'm grabbing a pack of the sticky notepads by Maggie Holmes. It's for the Carousel collection. Actually, if I haven't mentioned yet, then the album is stylized in that manner. So most of the things are from the Carousel collection by Maggie Holmes, and that makes it a little bit easier because all the styles and the colors, they're all coherent. I have done using a couple of other things from other brands, other collections, and you know, as long as it's within the same sort of color scheme or color family, then it works, or the same style. But obviously using things from the same collection makes things a lot easier. So there I finally decided how I wanted the banner to look, and I stuck it there. So the next thing, I want a little bit of dimension, but not too much, and I decided to use this enamel glitter star. It came from one of the scrapbooking kits I ordered ages ago, so you can't buy it separately, unfortunately. And yeah, so just adhering the banners to make sure that they stay in place using the Connect glue by Gina K, which I really love, and it seems like I'm running out of it quickly. So I'll have a look if I can find. Also, let me know in the comment box whether there is a glue similar to that with a nice thin nozzle. So here I used a sticker which says "Today was magic," and it was from the same collection again. Stickers, things that are flat, are great to use in this type of an album layout because they won't create that much dimension. As you can imagine, that album is pretty full by the end of the process because obviously there is doilies and papers and everything. So here I'm using a little stamp set from Felicity Jane. I will leave all the names and everything down below, and there's a little saying there that I quite liked, and I thought it would look really good on a little tab, which I punched out with the We Are Memory Keepers tab punch. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just grabbing my ink pad in black and stamping it. And actually at the end of this process, when I finished filming, I changed this for another sentiment. So this one says "Little Moments." I didn't like how it was a little bit too thickly stamped, so I ended up going for something else from the same Felicity Jane stamp set. But I love playing with these tabs, and ever since getting the tab puncher, I have been using it a lot, specifically in this album, because it just adds a little extra something and makes things look contemporary and just cute. Also, this tab is connecting that look of the sticker on the bottom right corner, because it's also an off-white with the black writing. So here I'm moving on to the next picture, and the reason I like these two pictures on opposite sides is because one is before we went in the restaurant, and the other one is when we were inside. So there is Mason wearing his jacket looking at the peacock, and then Mason is you know, took his jacket off and is looking outside onto the peacock. Here, as you can see, I picked doilies, 2 doilies cut in different styles and different papers, and that mustardy yellow and that turquoisey color, they work beautifully. And in fact, the off-white with a bit of that black polka dot work beautifully with the opposite page and pull all the colors together. And that's how I worked in this album, pulling things together. And even if pictures are completely different, I made them work by going with that sort of mentality. So there also actually this picture is one of my favorite ones because it was perfect. I mean, there is a peacock outside, you know, how often does that happen? And it was like either lemon tree or a clementine tree, and Mason stood there, and it just was perfect little moment to capture. And I hope this entire video will inspire you to start printing out your own pictures of your family and loved ones and creating these albums, because in my family it's always my dad who has, you know, printed a ton of pictures and just sticks them in the albums. He doesn't do any of the scrapbooking, of course, but he just sticks them in, and then when you sit down you just flick through that book of memories that you had together, and it's just such a precious thing to do. So this year one of the things that I'm really want to concentrate on is actually scrapbook a lot of albums. Possibly not as complicated as this scrapbooking process, because doing it on every single page, also in a very small format, was a little bit challenging at times. But you know, nonetheless, now every time I want to remind myself of that beautiful weekend we had, I just flip through that album, and actually we sit down with Mason and I show him every picture and he remembers it, and it's just a very sweet time. So there I used a feather, a peacock feather. I thought I won't have any other moments where I would need to use it, so that was a perfect time to pull out that big peacock feather and use it on this page. And then I used also the clear stickers that say happening right now, that came with this album. So that is it. So I think I will stop here. This is pretty much everything I wanted to put into this layout. One thing I wanted to say is, so at the end I usually would go in and sort of fix things into place, because so this is moving, as you can see, because I used this adhesive. It gives you time to move things around, and I really need it sometimes because it can be indecisive. So for example, this doily needs to go I think furthermore in here, and so I will do that now by then using the big adhesive tape glider, the Scotch one, and as you can see, things just lift off, and I can reposition them if I really wanted to. So that is a good thing. And then the final thing is to say that these type of stickers are usually quite hard to work with because they're quite big, and they are intended mostly for the 12 by 12 layouts, so they would be they won't be lost in a big layout. On something as small as this, it's almost the size of a picture, so it's a little bit big. However, I wanted to use it still because it's the peacock feather and it's the perfect picture and situation to use it in, because obviously there is a peacock there. And the other thing to say, as you can see color wise, I tried to correlate them and pull colors from this page into here by using that bit of mustardy yellow. That works usually really well, so that the design kind of is different, but pulled together it looks right. And also the bold writing, using things like the white doily is the white of the paper and the white of the border on this page, but the rest I tend to use kind of off-white. So for example, these stickers, they come on an off-white background, and so these little tabs that I punch out, they tend to come on a off-white paper. So basically that is it. I'm leaving a little bit of space here because I want to typewrite on some tracing paper a little, just few sentences, and kind of stick it on there and make it a little bit more memorable of what I can remember, because it's still fresh. Something like this works well here because it has a lot of white, off-white background and some lettering and typing, so that kind of knocks back the busy pattern as well. That is the reason why I'm always using a white doily on every single left page, because I want to create a bit of a white background or like a halo behind every picture. So here I tend to kind of mix things up because there's a lot of white already on this page, so I don't need to knock anything back. But as you can see on these pages, there's always a bit of pattern going on, and so I'm knocking it back with the white doily. And even on an off-white with less pattern, it still looks quite nice, and that's the look that I'm going here for. And here, for example, I used the white one as well, and then layered it with a little bit of off-white, and that's how I go about it. I actually went ahead and I fixed this page because I didn't like how it was looking, so I changed the frame or the border of this picture and mounted it on a slightly lighter colors because I felt it was too dark, as the picture was a bit too dark as well. I needed a bit of light, and I do like pictures to be mounted on lighter backgrounds with less busy, you know, perfect scenarios like an off-white. And then I like the minty ones as well with a little bit of pattern here and there. So that's what I am doing, and this was quite fun. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick these down properly, and that is pretty much it. Sometimes I like to add little bits right at the end, or when I look through the album and I kind of think, oh, I think I need to add something, and usually these come in really handy. These are also the sea flowers from Jane Davenport die cuts, and they just kind of add a little something. If you feel like it's not there yet, I find adding one of those kind of brings the whole thing together. And I might look for something like the same design but perhaps a different color just to set it off and bring it out a little bit more. But something like this, you know, obviously this color isn't there, so I won't add it, but you get the idea. So this is it for today, and I had loads of fun, and I hope this inspires you to